This series of videos is aimed at folks in 12-step programs. It's also for anyone who is curious about Bible history or about the spiritual and cultural significance of the Lord's Prayer. Hi, my name is David. I thought I'd start this second unit by simply stating why I think an in-depth video course on the Lord's Prayer is so valuable and so fascinating. I have three reasons. First, this is a very short prayer, and it's one of those that a lot of us say, and we say it a lot, so it's good to have ways to think about it. With the doxology at the end, for example, which is what the part that begins with, "For thine is the kingdom, the power," that part, without that, the Lord's Prayer is only 55 words long. Packs a lot of stuff. So while it's short, it's also amazingly deep and complex. So this is my second reason that I want to make this series of videos. Like I've said from the start, this is a very powerful set of words and worth spending the time on. Third, because it's so complex and powerful, it grows on you. It's like a tree that never stops bearing fresh new fruit. But wait, as we say, but wait, there's more. Here's a fourth reason. Here's a bonus reason. Once I have a sense of where this greater depth can be found, I find my mind digging deeper. And I find more in the words of the prayer about myself while I think it over than I ever knew was there. And that depth is what I need to find if my heart's in trouble. So with that, here we go again. You ready? In our last unit, we dug into the guts of the meaning of the words, "Hallowed be thy name." We found that God revealed his name, Jehovah, to the Hebrews enslaved in Egypt in the book of Exodus in the Old Testament. The Hebrews were so astonished when God revealed his name because he'd never done that for anybody before. They could hardly believe it. They knew this meant that his promise to help them out of slavery and lead them to the promised land, this was the real deal. Well, the Hebrews escaped enslavement in Egypt. I'm not sure they knew much about where they were going, what they were getting into, what this promised land would really look like or be like, but they were out from under the slavery of the Egyptians. So when we say the Lord's Prayer, we're saying right from the start, hey, if you can do that to help the Hebrews get out of Egypt, maybe you can help us too. Help us get out of all this bad stuff in our lives. Alcohol, drugs, the whole deal. So the next thing we ask is, take us to the promised land. Take us into your kingdom here on earth. And that line of the prayer is, "Thy kingdom come. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come." Expanded a bit, what we're really saying is, let your kingdom come into our lives and let us, in our lives, come into your kingdom. And meaning, without actually putting these words in there, meaning whatever that kingdom is, bring us into that kingdom. It's a request. It's a petition. It's a prayer. But the question that's always nagged at me is this: just exactly what is God's kingdom? What's it like? I mean, we think of things like great glimmering cities in the sky, like out there, nestled up in the clouds, pearly gates with St. Peter standing guard, his list kind of ticking off the souls as they come up to the gate, streets paved with gold, peaceful music floating through these heavenly fields. Because we've heard all that sort of thing in tales and in stories ever since we were kids in church. The truth is, we think like that because we live in a world where that kind of thing makes sense. In our world, there's a me in here. I'm the subject. There's a me in here, and then outside of me, there's everything else all around me. I can point at it. I can touch it. I can smell it like this. I can walk on it. I'm in me, and everything else is around me, and it's right there. But here it's also a world where everything changes. Everything comes and goes. There's a time to be born. There's a time to die. Everything has a start, and everything has to have a finish. Everything is bounded all around by time. So we say we live in the temporal world, a world bounded by time. But God's kingdom, which is a spiritual kingdom, by definition, a spiritual kingdom is eternal. That means the spiritual kingdom is not defined by time. God's kingdom is of all things and all dimensions, and time is not a factor. The spiritual promised land doesn't resemble this temporal world we live in, so we can't talk about it in the same way. So we really don't know what God's kingdom is really like. Not at all. You think about it, we're praying, thy kingdom come, but we don't really know what it's like. So what we're really doing is surrendering to whatever God brings us. We're surrendering our will to his will. Now let's see where we are so far. If we think in terms of a 12-step approach, the Hebrews admitted their powerlessness over slavery while they were in Egypt. They can't get free without help. In 12-step programs, we admit our powerlessness over drugs, over alcohol, over other addictions, or over the depression that comes with those addictions. We can't get out without help. And that's really the first step of the 12 steps. The Hebrews had given up on finding their own way out of slavery. But then the God Jehovah said, there is a solution. I'll give it to you, and I'll help lift you up. We say to a higher power, we can't do this ourselves. We need your help. We need your kingdom to come into us, and we need to come into your kingdom. That's just plain logic. If we can't do it, we got to have help. And that's the second step. Now, let's repeat from before. When we pray, thy kingdom come, we don't know what the kingdom's really like. So we're really surrendering to whatever God brings us. We're surrendering our will to his will. And that's pretty much step 3. So like, oh man, check this out. We've covered the first 3 steps of the 12 steps. We've covered the first 3 steps. And we've done it all in just, because I counted them. We've done it all in just 17 words. Like I said at the start, this is a really powerful prayer. Okay, we covered a lot, but there's more to come. If this is good, these videos, if this is helpful, click on the red subscribe button down below. If you have a question or a comment, I'd love it if you'd note it in the comments section below. And we'll talk again shortly in the next unit. See you then.